For this question, we have the graph. We want to use the graph of a basic function and a combination of transformations to sketch the function. So our function is g of x equals negative x plus 2 squared minus 4. So we want to figure out what the basic function is first, and we have a clue right here. Our clue is this squared. So our basic function is y equals x squared, and we know the graph of that is a parabola where the vertex is at 0, 0. And then we have a bunch of transformations that are occurring for this function. And these transformations are the negative, the plus 2, and the minus 4. Those are all the operations that you don't see in our base function x squared. So we have the negative, the plus 2, and the minus 4. And each one of these transformations will do something different to adjust the graph of the basic function. So I have a little flow chart over here. We're going to take a look at these different transformations. So we have a transformation of a shift, and a shift is when you are adding or subtracting. So if your operation is adding or subtracting onto your basic function, then you may have a shift in the graph. That adding or subtracting can be inside or outside the base function, and that makes a difference about whether your shift is going to go up or down, or left or right. So if our adding or subtracting is on the outside, we're either up or down. If you have a plus, it's up. If it's a minus, down. If your adding or subtracting is on the inside of your base, pluses to the left, minuses to the right. So that's one type of transformation. Another type of transformation is when our operation is multiplying by a negative 1. And that transformation is called a reflection. So if you multiply by a negative 1 on the outside, you have a vertical reflection. Everything above the x-axis gets mirrored below. If your negative is multiplied on the inside of your base function, you have a horizontal reflection, and everything that's on the left is mirrored to the right, and everything on the right is mirrored to the left. And then we have a third type of transformation, and the third type of transformation is called a stretch or compression. And a stretch or compression happens when you multiply by a number. You can multiply on the outside or multiply on the inside. If you multiply on the outside, you have a vertical, either stretch or compression. It's called a stretch when the number is bigger than 1. It's called a compression when it's in between 0 and 1. If your number is multiplied on the inside, you have a horizontal stretch or compression. If the number is greater than 1, it's a compression. If it's in between 0 and 1, it's a stretch. So this is the information that we're going to use to decide what type of transformations are occurring for our example. So in our example, we have this negative being multiplied, which means that it is a reflection. And because that negative is on the outside, of our base function, it is a vertical reflection. The +2, plus is adding or subtracting, meaning that this is a shift. The +2 is on the inside of the base, making it a horizontal shift. And because it's plus, we're going to shift to the left 2 units. The -4 is also adding or subtracting, making it a shift. And because that -4 is on the outside of our base function, it's a vertical shift. And because it's minus, it's down 4. So this information is going to help me draw the graph. I'm going to make these transformations on the basic function. So we're going to start with the basic function and do these transformations. It's important to know what order to do them in because you may get a different graph based on what order you do. And for the order we're going to follow is we're going to do our horizontal transformation first, then we'll do our reflection, and then we'll do our shift. It's basically following order of operations. We do what's inside the parenthesis, then we do multiplication, and then we do the subtraction. So our basic function starts off looking like this here. It's a parabola with a vertex at 0, 0. Then we're going to shift all of these points to the left 2. So all of the points move to the left 2, and then our whole parabola is shifted left 2. Let me change colors so that you guys can see the difference on each one of these. So shifting left 2 would give us a parabola like this. Then the next transformation is reflecting. Everything that's above the x-axis gets reflected below, mirrored below, and then finally we will shift down 4, moving our vertex down 4. And this is going to give me my final graph because it's the final transformation. So the graph in red represents all 3 transformations. That's f of x equals negative x plus 2 squared minus 4, and will be our final graph. For this example, we have a question that says use the graph of the known basic function and a combination of horizontal and vertical shifts to sketch the function. Our function in this example is g of x equals absolute value of x minus 4 minus 3. So I need to figure out the basic function first, and these absolute value symbols give me a clue as to what the base function is. So our basic function is y equals absolute value of x, and the absolute value graph is the graph that looks like a V, and that V is at the origin 0, 0. And then we can see some differences between the basic function and our function g of x. These are the transformations. We have a minus 4 and a minus 3. So our transformations consist of minus 4 and minus 3. Both of them are adding and subtracting, so we know that they are both shifts. The minus 4 is on the inside of the absolute value, making it a horizontal shift, whereas the minus 3 is on the outside of the absolute value, so that's a vertical shift. A horizontal shift is left and right. This being a minus means that we're going to shift to the right 4. Vertical shifts are up and down, and this is a minus, so it will be down. So our basic graph of absolute value of x will be sketched out like this. And then I want to do the transformations. I'm going to do the transformations in the order, doing the horizontal transformation first and then the vertical. So we want to shift right 4. If I shift right 4, that would get me to this graph here. Trying to use a different color so you can see it. That's the absolute value graph shifted right 4, and then we'll shift those points down 3. And I'm going to draw this solid because this is the final graph. This is the graph of g of x equal absolute value of x minus 4 minus 3. Use the graph of the known basic function and a combination of horizontal shifts, reflections, and vertical shifts to sketch the function. Our function in this example is g of x equal negative x cubed plus 3. So first we want to find the basic function, and we have a clue because of this cube. Our basic function is the equation y equals x cubed, and the y equals x cubed graph looks like this. So our graph will have this basic shape. And then I'm noticing that I have a few transformations. And the transformations that I have are this negative and this plus 3. Those are going to change the graph of the basic function. The negative and the plus 3. The negative is multiplying by a negative, which is the transformation of reflection. And because that negative is outside of the cube, outside of the basic function, then that means it's a vertical reflection. Everything above the x-axis will be mirrored below. The plus 3 is adding or subtracting, and that makes this transformation a shift. The plus 3 is outside of the base function, which makes it vertical. And because it's vertical, it's either up or down, and the plus indicates that it's up. So we're going to shift up 3 units. So I'll start with the basic function. The basic function looks like this. I should have drawn that dashed. I guess I'll leave it solid since I'll do different colors. So that's the basic function. And then I'm going to do the reflection first and then the shift. So I'm going to reflect or do a mirror. So what's above the x-axis would be mirrored below. What's below the x-axis will be mirrored above. And that takes care of the vertical reflection. And then I want to do the vertical shift up 3 units. So I'm focusing on this point right here at the origin. I'm going to shift that point up 3 units. And my graph would look something like this. Thank you for checking out my videos. Have a great day.